All right, let's not waste any time. Let's get these guys out here. We have Ari Lehman, Ron Millkie, Adrienne King, Amy Steele, Harry Manfredini, and John Carl Buechler from Friday the 13th.
Hey, everybody. Welcome.
Awesome, guys.
Yes, welcome.
Thank you so much for being here with us, guys, and taking time away from being at your table, meeting your fans. We really appreciate it. So I'll ask a couple questions, get things kicked off, and then as soon as I see hands going up out there, I'll start calling them out. But I wanted to start at the beginning. For everybody, how did this franchise come into each of your lives, and what were your initial thoughts before getting involved?
Amy, you start.
All right, we start with number one, baby.
Yeah, we'll start with number one.
Hey, everybody. How are you today? Welcome to Camp Crystal Lake, as it were. I was so fortunate because not far away from here is a town called Westport, Connecticut. It's not too far, considering I live in Chicago. So, and we have the beautiful Long Island Sound there. So, Sean Cunningham had his movie company in Westport. And as a young boy, I kind of wanted to be an actor. So they told me there was going to be an audition at the YMCA in Westport, Connecticut. So I snuck in to the audition. I brought a clipboard to seem official. I was like 10 years old. And I just walked in. 12. And I walked in. I said, where's the audition? Oh, it's upstairs. Okay. I wrote that down. Upstairs. And then I walked up the stairs, and then they're like, hey, and I just kept going, and they gave me an 80-line role in Sean's movie that you've never seen, which is about a bunch of kids who play soccer and win their orphanage back from the mob. And since nobody cared about soccer in 1979, soon I got another call from Sean. He said, Ari, I need a little help. You got to come down to the studio. We have another part for you. I said, really? Oh, sure, Sean. He goes, wait a second. Can you swim? I said, yeah, I live right by the Long Island Sound. I go swimming every day. Oh, you got the part. Great. And so that explains the answer to your question. Who's next?
Want to jump in on that?
John?
Yeah.
I'd always been a huge fan of the series and very respectful of every element in every film that came before mine. And when I was asked to make the film, I honestly thought I was going to get fired on the spot because I said, Part 7? Are you insane? Nobody wants to see a Part 7. And then I went on to say, I don't want to do a standard stalk and slash. I want it to be innovative. I want to push the envelope. I want to be different. And I think that's why I got the job. So ultimately, it was a standard stalk and slash film, but with a little bit of carry and some magic, and we called it sort of mind over splatter at the time. So had fun with it.
Can you hear me? Yeah. I had worked for Sean before in another film we won't talk about. Anyway, I had known him, and I liked Sean a lot. He was a great guy, and he had a great sense of humor, and he was easygoing. And I saw an ad in Daily Variety. I was having lunch at a diner in New York City where I live. It said, filming now, Friday the 13th, crashing through the glass. Do you remember that ad? It was a small little ad, directed by Sean Cunningham. It was raining that day. I said, let me call him. I called him at home. He happened to be home that day because it was raining. And I said, Sean, Ron Millkie. Hey, how are you, Ron? I says, I see you're directing a movie called Friday the 13th. And he says, yeah. I says, anything in it for me? He says, Ron, I'm sorry, we're cast already. We're shooting now. I said, okay, Sean, keep in touch, bye. And I hear, Ron, hold it. And he said, there's a part that I was going to play. Did you know that? Sean Cunningham was going to play Officer Dorff.
I did not. What?
Yeah. And he said, you'd be right for this. I'm going to overnight, this was the day before emails, overnight the script, and you come on up to to Blairstown and auditioned for me. So I went, took the bus up there, and I auditioned with, they were already filming. Harry Crosby, Kevin Bacon, you weren't there, Adrienne, that day. You were shooting.
I was there, trust
You
me.
were there? Oh, okay. And Janine. Anyway, so I read, and was silence. And then Harry Crosby said, "I'm unduly impressed." I said, "Well, thank you, Guy." Sean didn't say anything. I said, "Oh, I lost this, forget it." So he's walking me up the hill to take the bus home, and he says, "Ron, you got the part. Learn your lines." And I was on the set next week. That's my story.
I had the pleasure of scoring a couple of pictures. Actually, I scored the soccer movie that you didn't do. A couple of movies with Sean before we did Friday the 13th, and both of them were less than big successes. And we were having dinner one day in his kitchen, and he says, "I'm going to make this movie called Friday the 13th, and you're going to score it." I said, "Okay."
And what was for dinner?
What did we have? We ordered out from Mario's. Mario's. We had fettuccine Alfredo.
Mario's in Westport?
Mario's by the train station.
Great Italian restaurant.
Great Italian restaurant, great steaks, and fettuccine Alfredo. Unbelievable.
And what wine did you have with that?
What wine did I have? I had this wine from Oregon. It's called Survivor Syrah, which is quite good. Made by this lady right here.
He's going to have another case sent to him.
I love it. It's really good. Came in, but I told her I brought it as a fun thing. We had a wine tasting thing, and I brought a bottle of her Survivor Syrah from Friday the 13th, and I actually came in second place to like major
30
wines that
bottles.
people had brought. They're all going.
Of all prices, yes.
All right. Anyway, back to Adrienne.
Back to me. So, the summer of 1979, the longest summer of my life, because it started out with an open call of every union, non-union actor between the ages of 16 and 29, probably in New York City, crashing, lining up for this audition for Friday the 13th, and I think I was number like 333, whatever, out of massive amounts of talent, and I made the cut. I met the casting director. I met Sean. I met the producers, and it was, like I said, very long process. I had a commercial agent at the time. I didn't even have a theatrical agent who's normally who would put you up for the roles, so you wouldn't have to stand in line. So I made the cut, and I read with all the guys that made the cut, and at that point we auditioned with what they called the shower scene, where Marcy talks about the dream she had in the shower. So that's what all the girls had to read. That was their audition. And and so I read with Harry and I read with Kevin, and they didn't know how I was going to pair up. But then they decided they were going to screen test me for Alice. So lo and behold, I had another callback for the screen test, and that afternoon I got a call from Sean who said, "You're my Alice, and can you swim? Yeah. Can you lay in a canoe? Do you mind? Can you do your own stunts?" And I said, yes, and the rest is history.
See that?
Wow. Such great stories at the beginning of Friday the 13th for everybody, huh? Mine was pretty along the same lines of just, I got an audition. I was living in New York, and I got a call. I was doing a job in the Poconos, and those are the days without cell phones, so I had to call in to my agent once a day. And they said, as soon as you get back, you have an audition for Friday the 13th. And Friday the 13th had already come out, and it was really big. and it was for part 2, and I said, oh God, really, I want to do those other films. Didn't Steven Spielberg call me over the week? Didn't John Hughes call me? No. Friday the 13th casting director called me. So I had done a bunch of commercials and some print, and I had done one other film, which I won't name, but so I went. What?
I want to see that one.
No, Harry, you can't see it. You need a special password. So anyway, I auditioned, and I think the scene was at the bar. No, what if there really is a Jason? And so yeah, what if there really is? What if there really is, Ari? So that was the scene, and I think I had gone back a couple times, and it wasn't a very arduous process for me, not like Adrienne had to go through. So I got it, and I can't believe it's almost 40 years later, and I can't believe I'm sitting here talking about this. If I had known, I would have stashed so many more things in my memory bank and my treasure chest. But thanks for being here.
Yay.
Okay, so before we turn it over to the audience, just one more. As much as I love horror, Friday the 13th is like my favorite franchise by miles and miles and miles. But I kind of have a tough time verbalizing like exactly what, why that is or what makes it great. So I was wondering if that's probably something each have been asked many times. What, through 12 different films and a range of different directions, what makes this franchise stand out to each of you?
Well, I think, as you said, it's kind of uncanny. But, first and foremost, the best thing is how devoted the fans of Friday the 13th and Jason Voorhees are. And we owe so much to them, because if it wasn't for, Jason never dies because of the fans, and certainly in the hearts and minds, Jason Voorhees is kind of become part of the whole mythos and legend, alongside all the great monsters of history. So, the thing of having different actors playing the same role, like my first memory of horror was, okay, I liked Bela Lugosi as Dracula. But then somebody told me, what about Christopher Lee? And I was like, who's Christopher Lee? So in other words, that kind of thing, I think, enhanced the way fans interact with Friday the 13th, as opposed to other series where they have one actor play the same character all the way through. Maybe, I don't know. Who knows?
I don't know. I was heartbroken when I found out there was more than one Lassie. I think it's all because of the soundtrack.
Without a doubt.
I'll
Ready?
get you for that.
No, that sound.
I'll get you for that.
Right, Harry? What'd you say?
Whatever you say.
Well, I think it truly was the perfect storm. We had the maestro, his incredible music.
Yeah.
Then we had
that music.
Oh, and then we had Tom Savini's special effects that still hold up till this day. Then we had the brilliant ability of the swimmer down here on the far end, the first Jason. But seriously, it was the perfect Betsy Palmer.
Oh, we're going to say Betsy Palmer.
The ultimate mother. Other actresses could not have pulled that off.
No, yeah, but what's really weird about it is that they're all too young to know. But you got to go back and look up Betsy Palmer and find out that she had a what do you call it? Like a characteristic about her, a thing about
brassy.
She was,
she
was the sweetest person
She was the all-American girl.
She was the
Yes.
all-American girl. She
You'd
was in
never
Mr.
guess.
She was in Mr. Roberts.
Mr. Roberts, she plays
She was
head
on
of the
To
waves.
Tell the Truth.
the Navy.
Right.
She was the girl with the greatest. She was the
And beautiful, just beautiful.
gorgeous. And when I first saw the
But
picture,
she wasn't a vulnerable. She was
No.
beautiful with that smile.
we don't
but
really have anybody
practical
like
and
that.
tough. She had a certain
it would be like
energy.
The best I can come up with is like Mary Tyler Moore.
Yeah.
If
But
you
she
could
was.
think of-
She wouldn't do. Oh, Rob. She
Yeah,
wasn't.
but she wasn't. Yeah, but she was. That's what she was. And I'll never forget the first time I saw the movie because I wasn't there when they were shooting or anything. And all at once, I saw Betsy Palmer, and I go like, "She's the killer." Oh, I don't want to give it away. Everybody saw it, right? And I'm going like, "Oh."
Well, they
my-
put her on the poster. I mean,
And I just
you see
went,
it's hers.
I
they
can't
didn't.
believe
No,
it.
they
I mean, it's just completely so out of character. And she was brilliant.
She pulled it off like no one else
Brilliant.
could have. She really
So that
did.
was an element of like what they call misdirection. So you think it could never be this character, and there it was.
That was the other thing, with Tom Savini, who was incredible. We got time?
Go for it.
All right, I'll give you two great things. The misdirection is, for example, in the scene with Kevin Bacon, he's laying in the bed, right? But only we, the audience, know there's a dead guy laying in the bunk on the top. So immediately you think that the terror is going to come from the top because that's where he is. And Kevin's laying there and almost the blood drops and you're sure something's going to come from the top and wham, it comes from the bottom and then the arrow comes up.
And there's an excruciating element in that because when the two characters come together, she says, "What about?" He's like, "I love you," or something. And like, "What about Ned?" And he's like, "I don't love Ned." And then Ned is dying on the top bunk
With the
while
lightning-
they're
with the
enjoying
lightning
each other's
flashing on 'em and
company
everything.
together. That's pretty intense, man.
And that's the other thing is like, especially in
And Mom is waiting under the whole time.
there was, I could tell you a gazillion things. The cast that we had in the first couple, things got kind of out of control, and I don't even want to go into the newer ones, but we had actual actors and we had characters who were actually, each one of them had their own characteristic,
Full
backstory, full whole story about her. And for example, I think the coolest thing is that Amy is the girl who psychs Jason out. And what is it you do for a living?
I psych people out.
She psychs people out. That's what she does. Anyway, that's one of my favorite scenes to ever score was the Shay Jason scene where she puts on the sweater and turns into his. I said this is the scene. There's always one scene that I do like, oh man, this is great. Then there was some great stuff with Adrienne and the guy John. What was his name? The guy who played Mr. Christie. What was his name? Peter Brown. One of the very first scenes where he's nailing up the drainage, and you had drawn the picture, which she's also an artist. She's an incredible artist. You did that drawing, right? And he goes, is that what I look like? And she says, that's what you looked like last night. You see how that little line is an actual character. It said something about her and him. And then he walks by and just touches her cheek.
Sleeves.
You see what I'm saying? It wasn't just cardboard characters who are being, sent to the slaughter. The bell rings every 9 minutes. Bam, somebody's
You cared
gone.
about them. You were invested in each character.
And even though Betsy's not here, I'll just tell you this because I'll show you the genius of Betsy Palmer. There's a scene where Betsy finally encounters Adrienne, and she's explaining the story, and she says, "Well, Jason was my son," and she says, he wasn't, today is his birthday, and he goes, he wasn't a very good swimmer. Remember? But she smiles when she says it. It's not, she knows that he drowned. He wasn't a very good swimmer, and she smiles. It's like she's crazy, she knows it, and she doesn't care. All three in one flash of a second. I mean, that's one of the reasons why everybody jumped into that picture, because there was so much character, and it was written in, and it was acted by these people. And now when you see it now, it looks like 6 people got off the runway, and again, they were just there to be, they don't have characters. Every one of the people in that film, they all had a character. I could go through every one of them because I felt every one of them. Anyway, I'll shut up.
Oh, no, that was good.
Well, maybe also back then we didn't have Instagram. You know, it wasn't about likes. It was about, you had to like show up and you had to really like make it happen. You didn't just pose. We didn't even have selfie sticks then. Can you believe that?
I had a selfie stick.
Yeah, it was the original selfie stick.
That's why I need therapy right now.
I'll psych you out, Harry.
I love these girls. All right, okay. Question.
Questions?
I just want to say
We're tough to interview, aren't we?
Well, no. I just
We're
want to
really
let John and Ron
Yeah.
weigh in on this one if they want.
I'll be very brief. I don't know what the question was. I lost track.
That's what makes the franchise stand
What
out to
makes
you.
the franchise so great?
It doesn't matter.
Officer Dorff.
I'm going to tell my own Betsy Palmer story. There was a running argument, some of you may know, between, can I say this? Sure. Steve Dash and Warrington Gillette as to who was the real Jason in Friday the 13th 2. This got vicious. And we were doing a panel like this at one of the conventions, and they're arguing, I was Jason, and then Steve, I was Jason, and they got nasty. They were calling each other's names. And Betsy says, wait a minute, guys. Neither one of you were Jason. Jason is dead. Jason was my son. He drowned in Camp Crystal Lake Pond. And it got a
That's my
rousing applause from the audience. So that's a great, that's what she was like. Very down to earth. And
Very, very down to
great
earth.
Betsy Palmer story.
What makes a franchise? What makes a lasting franchise that is remembered and is revered by the fans? Now, you hear a lot here, and all of it, honestly. The initial film had so many weird left turns in it, you had no idea what was going to happen next, which is truly the mark of a master filmmaker. You had wonderful performances, and you had the amazing stuff that Tom Savini did. I mean, think about it. To that time in film history, have you ever seen anything on screen like what Tom did in that film?
No.
It's absolutely extraordinary.
No green screen.
It busted the envelope. It made people like, whoa, this can happen. Like, in much the same way as in the Halloween film series, Michael didn't die, and that was like creepy. Oh my God, guess what? There's a badder guy out there, and the series evolved from the dying Jason to the ghost Jason, to the spiritual, whatever that thing is that's out there. Did he drown? Is he a tangible entity?
Is he a dream?
In many ways, it's
Still
the
a dream?
enigma. It is the enigma of the character. How does he just show up and do this stuff? You know, that stuff is frightening. So is he a spirit? Is he real? In my film, the only way I could rationalize Jason is he's a ghost living in the body that he died in. And he has no idea that he's dead, and you cannot possibly stop him. But I mean, the enigma, I think. Why is he the way he is? You never want to know that stuff, and it's never truly explained until, the remakes and all that. And you don't want to know that. You really don't. It's better to keep the mystery alive.
Someone said in one of the remakes he was growing pot and he was selling it. Did he have a PayPal account or what?
Yeah, they had a GPS. They had two guys were searching for his weed field with a GPS system, and they found it, and they turned around and whack.
Get your J's
Good.
with Jason.
See that? Now that's writing.
Very cool.
It's good fertilizer for the plants.
So I figure I want to open it up to the audience, guys. I'm sure you have a lot of questions out there. Looks like we got one up here in the front row.
This is for Ari. So Ari, how do you feel that you played Jason in part 1? He was just a boy who drowned in a lake, and then 9 sequels later, he's a zombie in outer space. How do you feel about that?
Oh, well, every time a new installation of Friday the 13th comes out, it reflects, I feel, like, the times, the zeitgeist, the trend of the times. So at one time, like, for instance, Part 7, which I love, has that great psychic Tina character. And so it's this, but also at that time we had great shows like Charmed and Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So the female psychic character. Okay, again, with Jason X, which everybody loves, come on. And because you got the holodeck there, you get the sleeping bag. Here, Jason, come up on stage. Let's talk a little Jason here, because the evolution of the character. Let's hear it for Jason Voorhees, people. Let's hear it for Jason. I'm very blessed and honored to have been the first Jason, but each actor brought something new to the role too. So, but again, in Jason X, when science fiction was popular and Star Wars and all, so they reflected that in Friday the 13th. So what's going to happen next? Jason can't speak, and what is it? Technology today. Maybe he could text, though. Perhaps, if I gave Jason a phone, what if you got a text message from Jason? What would it say? It'd be like, chit, chit, chit. I'm behind you, So that's how I feel. It's the imagination of the fans, and of course, it's like a theme in music, which is traded from one band to another, and then enjoyed by the fans, and production teams get to play with that same recipe, if you will. You go in knowing what familiar meal or entertainment, you will, where you're going to be served, right? But there's a little change. It's a little different. It's contemporary, and that's why it's got to flow with it. But yeah, if you get a text from Jason, you'll know what to do. Okay. Yes, bravo. Thank you.
Actually, if I could riff on that, because it's a really good question.
Start with the word zeitgeist.
Zeitgeist. So
Zeitgeist.
that's going to be a tough one to start with.
I had one of those for breakfast.
No, but actually riffing on that, mentioning Jason X, and you guys have been talking about how the franchise is one that's constantly evolving. And I was wondering if for each of you, if there was a certain point, a certain film after your involvement where you felt like, wow, they're really turning into some new territory now, or like this is very different. Like, at what point for each of you did you start to say, this is different? Like, this is,
Well, there was that tap dancing movie. We didn't tell anyone
That
about
tap dancing scene was good. I remember that. I'll tell you this. I read 20 versions of Jason Meets Freddy. The first one I read was by far the best. Never got made. And then they made the one that they made, and I was wondering if either of the people who wrote that had seen a Jason movie or a Freddy movie, because it made no sense whatsoever.
That's correct.
And every movie subsequent to that just got worse. I've seen a total of 4 minutes of each thing, and I can't watch it. I can't watch it. I don't know what the hell's going on, but it's.
Just get the video game, you'll be fine. I heard it has great music.
I'll tell you a great joke. You'll like this. You're in a room. There's Martin Scorsese, Steven Spielberg, and Michael Bay, and you have 2 bullets in a gun. What do? You shoot Michael Bay twice.
You could run for president on that. Did anybody else want to weigh on that when they felt like the franchise had veered
Michael,
into...
are you here?
Anyone want to weigh in on shooting
Did you
Michael
know
Bay?
actually that Michael Bay, when he was first
This is great. Let's crap on Michael Bay.
well, no, I don't know if you all.
Dish.
I'm not crapping on him personally.
Could be Dish.
No, he actually had his people reach out to Betsy Palmer and my convention manager to ask if we would be interested in reprising our roles at the top of the '09 release, Reimagining. And we said, of course we would. I mean, no question about it, wouldn't we love to get involved with something like this? And then a week later, they pulled the plug on anyone from the original being involved in it. And I just think they lost so much with that decision, because it would have been so nice. I love the idea that they brought in some new blood and a new viewing audience for the '09, but I think they missed an homage to the original fans of the first one. I just thought it'd be so cool to have Ari and me and some of the Jasons sitting in the diner scene, you know, maybe be waitress or a cook, and I could be Wheeling Betsy and whatever. I just thought, how much fun would that be for everyone? But didn't happen.
Questions out there, guys?
Panel, you guys are all screenwriters. You had your choice to write the next season. Have any ideas?
Well, I would personally, it's like I look for an origin, like the story of the origins of Little Jason has never been told. I'm the only one who actually knows it. So you could look forward to seeing that. As you know, there's a lot of fan films out there right now. There's Never Hike Alone. There's Voorhees. There's Vengeance. I'm sure you guys have heard of some of these. My band First Jason is going to accompany our new album with an origin story. It's going to be a full-length music video without dialogue, but it's going to talk about, you know, the origins of. That's what I'm interested in. You know, like what? How did he get like that?
I actually, no joke, I actually wanted to do Friday the 13th Part 7 Volume 2, where Tina is now 30 years older, in an asylum. She has a daughter with telekinetic powers. There is old Dr. Cruz in a wheelchair. He did not die from his attack from Jason. And he starts abusing her in much the same way he did when she was a teenager. And his daughter gets wind of this, resurrects Jason, brings him to the asylum, and goes after him. That's one of the things I thought I would like to do, because I don't know. I think that the movies that Paramount were involved with all along, I think that there's a wonderful continuity there, where it evolved, and there was a lot of respect that went from one movie to another to observe the not just the franchise, but the story and the legend and the mythos. And I would just like to go back, much the way Carpenter is going back and preserving the Halloween legend. I'd like to continue from kind of where we left off.
Sean Cunningham and I used to have a laugh over, there was a comedy writer who proposed a movie called Jason versus Officer Dorf. And Sean said it would never work because you guys don't like comedy and horror, right? You want the pure stuff.
So originally, part one, when part one was done, Sean had said, so Alice can come back, wake up from the dream, but then she's in a post-traumatic dream, and all that we see and seem is but a dream within a dream. And part two is actually Alice's post-traumatic stress dream. And you see, she met Ginny when she had this problem, and Ginny was her therapist in school, and she had this incredible dream, and then they woke up and they fought Jason together because he really did exist. And he witnessed the murder of his mother.
I want to see all these movies a lot more than anything that came out this year. Like, these all sound amazing. Did you have any ideas, thoughts?
Well, of course, I'd have to gather all the women because we need the powers of all of them, the kinetic powers. We need, so I'd start with all the final wig girls, and we'd kick some ass. And then we'd have to bring in all the Jasons because, it would be way too boring. We could all take one Jason down in 5 minutes. So we'd have to bring them all in, and yeah, it'd be really good, wouldn't it?
I like that,
Amazing.
but they better hurry up.
Expendables of Friday the 13th. It'd be incredible.
Yeah, we better hurry up because
we'll all be on walkers soon.
Yeah.
Did Harry get a chance to weigh in on that?
No, I'm.
Harry said enough today.
I'll tell you, I have no.
Unless you're going to sing and dance for us, Harry.
Tap shoes.
Yeah, well,
I've seen so many scripts at this point, it's all a blur.
Read so many.
Is there a Friday the 13th
I have read so
musical?
many scripts on this. It's crazy. Unbelievable.
Is there a Friday the 13th musical?
But what about the video game? I mean, you did all the music for the video game, and that is like a new story in a way. I would predict that the next Friday the 13th is going to be based on the interaction of the fans and that game, because they're creating new storylines all the time, playing camp
but the
counselors.
game is nixed. The game's done.
It's not done. You can still play it.
I have yet to play the game, but I hear it's great. It's the most accurate reincarnation of the series yet.
They can't add new stuff, Amy. They can't add new stuff.
They're going to. Well, as soon as everything clears up, they're going to. I've already written it, so I know they are.
Oh,
but it's secret. Don't tell anybody.
Did you just tell me that? Can I tell I have so many gamers out there to be so happy.
Fake news.
So that's under the. We're not supposed to mention that in public.
You and me.
Okay, you guys.
And these guys.
Well, we're almost out of time, guys, but before we wrap it up, I want to give you guys a chance to plug anything you have upcoming. Is there any projects or appearances upcoming, place for fans to catch you guys next or follow you online, perhaps?
Of course, First Jason, my band, our new album's coming out, Lord of the Lake. Check it out.
Lord of the Lake.
Got a new movie coming out. I'm in post-production on it called Wizard Dreams with Malcolm McDowell and Ernie Hudson and a rising cast of young stars. Monsters, mayhem, giants, trolls, ogres, all kinds of cool stuff. And I'm writing another script. So
I'm really thankful and grateful that I got a chance to be in Friday the 13th because I've done 12 horror movies since then. And I guess I'd like you to check out one that I thought was not bad as far as my part. It was called The Bone Garden. You can find it on YouTube, I guess, or you can Google it, and that's what I'll promote for my 15 seconds. Thanks for being a great audience, by the way, guys. Yeah.
I'm starting another game called Hide or Die, I think it's called, and it's another multiple player game. It's 16 players at a time. And you can not only be the good guy, but if you don't watch out, you could turn into the bad guy. And it's I hate to say it, but it's even cooler looking than the Friday game. And I think Tom's going to be involved with it. But they're just getting started. But it's a pretty cool game. And I'm doing a movie, a fun movie, because it's all people I know, friends of mine, and I'm going to be in it too.
Really?
Yeah,
Tap dancing?
I play me, tap dancing in a record store. It's called Vinyl Redemption. Get it? Vinyl.
Get it.
And but it's real. It's kind of a horror movie, but it's kind of like Wayne's World meets a horror film. And and I'm doing a little TV. What I hope to be is an anthology for kids like 10 to 12. Little short, scary films, kind of like Goosebumps, doing 50 of those. And then I'm doing a movie with Sean about a piano teacher, a very sweet story about somebody who's going to pass away and that their life is really good. Sean's...
It's nice to see you're slowing down.
Yeah, I'm slowing down, yeah. And then tomorrow... No, okay.
No, go for it. Tomorrow what? On your way home? So, most of you know I am very busy in Southern Oregon wine country with Crystal Lake Wines, and I'm currently painting a new painting for Cabernet Sauvignon, and my latest...
Cabernet.
Do you love it? And of course, and my latest one is I have way too much fun with wine. It is the Voorhees Vengeance Viognier, and it's my homage to Betsy. You see Mrs. Voorhees, the back of her facing camp with her ring, and she's holding a glass of wine because wine heals all. And and besides that, I just finished 2 incredible films back to back. One called Killer Therapy, very dark and very twisted, and I loved every second of it. And then I filmed in LA, and then I found an incredible script, and it hardly ever happens, but I happened to find 2 in 1 year. And the second one was called The Girl in Apartment A, and I get to show some sass as a police detective in this psychological thriller, and that was shot in Connecticut last month. I just finished. And beyond that, Amy and I are getting together for the Final Girls video.
Yeah.
And we'll be tap dancing.
Yeah, so Adrienne just finished a film that once again trashes psychotherapy, makes this therapist this horrible human being that ruins somebody's life. Go figure.
Never happens.
Hardly ever happens to anyone.
Yeah. So there are those people out there, but hey, I will plug that there are some good therapists as well.
And I will second that.
Aside from that, I'm waiting for the phone to ring on Hide or Die video, and I'm waiting for the phone to ring on the Friday the 13th musical. And I'm waiting for the phone to ring on more of the video that's coming up. But aside from that, no, really, I'm not really in the business anymore, except for coming out to these conventions and meeting and seeing all you guys and kind of pretending that I was 21 at one point. Well, I was 21 at one point, but pretending, kind of going back at that time and kind of revisiting those younger years. So thanks so much for being here. It's really good to see all you new faces and familiar ones.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all. It's all because of every single one of you, so thank you. And we do appreciate our fans.